Hi, everyone. Welcome to Community Connection. I'm one of your hosts, Vicki Casella, LPC. I'm here with my co-host, Mark Kenny. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hi, Vicki. Doing well, thank you.
It's nice to see you virtually again, hopefully soon enough in person, which would be fantastic. But
Yes.
This is good.
For now, yes.
Yes.
I agree.
So we are very excited to have our guest, Felicia Moore, LPC Counseling Services. Hi, Felicia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited. We're very excited to have Felicia on our show. She primarily works with the LGBTQ community. Felicia, is there anything that you would like to add in terms of introducing yourself or, who you are, what you do, what you focus on, and then we'll dive into the questions?
Sure. Yeah, just briefly, like Vicki said, I am an LPC licensed professional counselor. I primarily work with people in the LGBTQ plus community. At least I would say like 85%, 90% of my clients are somewhere within that community. And then on top of that, I also specialize in gender and working with people who are transgender and helping them to get on hormones, get their surgeries, and get them to living their authentic life.
That's wonderful. I love how you worded that, to live their authentic life. So June is Pride Month. Correct me if I'm wrong, Felicia.
Yep.
June is Pride Month, so we're kind of at the end of June. But I know like the activities that normally would have been going on in June are now pushed back. But we can get into that as we ask our questions. And before we get started, just my usual disclaimer that if anyone who's listening or watching is really struggling with any severe symptoms, we always strongly encourage you to reach out to your doctor, the hospital, crisis therapist, whoever's in your support system, to just make sure that you have the support there that you need as you're struggling, if you are struggling. So let's dive right in. So question one, what do you identify as some of the main barriers or challenges that the LGBTQ community faces?
I think that one of the main barriers is definitely just acceptance. There is a lot of pushback in regards to that community. For some reason, I feel like that it stems from our ancestors many, many years ago. But I think that's definitely one of the biggest barriers. And even more recently, if you look at the news and everything, there was the bill that passed in regards to like doctors and other healthcare workers like that. They can now discriminate against people, specifically in the transgender community. So that kind of ties right into the whole piece that I think one of the biggest barriers is just acceptance.
On the other side, Felicia, and in the counseling profession, we are, talking and training to be focused on strengths. So, what are the strengths that you found in working with this population, both individually and also within the community?
I think resilience is a really big one. Despite everything that gets thrown at this community, everyone still manages to come together and, try to be as positive and as, they try to educate people who are struggling with that acceptance and just trying to help them to understand, like, everybody just wants to be happy. Like, that's what it really comes down to, just wanting to be happy, wanting to be yourself and be accepted and loved. So I think definitely a strength for the community is that, being able to come together and educate without throwing out, so much hate that is often received.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend? What are some small steps that you would recommend for these individuals to work on if they're currently struggling in their situation of coming out or expressing themselves, or however you would word that?
I think one of the best things that people can do is, if they're struggling in any way, is find a counselor. That would be a good one, because there are a lot of us who are LGBTQ plus friendly. We understand, the struggles, at least to some extent, even for those who aren't in the community. So that's definitely one thing. And there is also different organizations, even in the Lehigh Valley, that people can reach out to, like Bradbury Sullivan Center is a good one in Allentown. They do all kinds of stuff for the community. Mazzoni Center in Philadelphia. There's PFLAG. There's a lot of different places to kind of reach out. And like I said, there are a lot of counselors too that can help. And even if like you're in school, middle school, high school, college, most of the local schools that I've communicated with, they all have pride centers. And if they don't have pride centers, they have health centers and counseling centers. And they all generally seem to have a connection to the LGBTQ plus community as well. So I think, just reaching out and finding support, within the professional world, or even like with friends. And, there are generally some family members, in most cases, not all, but just finding people to be able to lean on and go to and get that support.
That's wonderful. You kind of already jumped ahead in my question, but because I was going to ask, how can others in the community help? And you've already shared, a lot of local organizations that can assist with that. So.
Right. So one of those support systems you mentioned is the helping profession counselors, and how could we job reaching out to this community, and can you help us understand the difference between welcoming and affirming and incompetent in terms of how maybe professionals identify themselves in working with this population?
So you cut out just a smidge, but I think I got most of it.
Okay.
In regards to how we as counselors in our field can help, just making it known that, on your website, on your Psychology Today profile, whatever you have, make sure you put somewhere in there that you are LGBTQ friendly, meaning that you're not going to judge a person because of who they are. Also, something that might seem small, but in your emails, in your profiles, identifying somewhere that what pronouns you use, trying to normalize that, I think would be huge. Encouraging people around us, if you don't know somebody's pronouns, just ask, hey, what do you mind if you let me know what your pronouns are? And then I think in regards to the competent versus incompetent, I think those who are competent are the ones who are seeking education. They might be involved in the LGBTQ plus community to some extent. They fall somewhere within there. But even if you don't, that doesn't mean that you can't be competent. It just means that you're going to need some education. So there are tons of different organizations with different courses taught by people who are in the community who can shed some light on it. You can get supervision, that sort of thing. I think helps you kind of come from incompetent to competent if you so choose that you want to.
And for an individual or a couple or family, are there some, you mentioned, those are great ideas about people really putting it out there on their website and in Psychology Today about making very clear that they work with this population. Are there some questions that maybe an individual, couple, or family may want to ask a counselor before that first to get a sense of that fit for them working with that particular person? If this is the presenting issue, because sometimes this isn't the presenting issue, but right. If this is the presenting issue, are there any suggestions of maybe some key questions in talking with a counselor for the first time?
I definitely think that you can be blunt about it and just ask, like, are you LGBTQ plus friendly? And if they look at you like you have two heads, that means that maybe they're not the right fit for you. So that would definitely be one question I would ask. Another would be, if they do say that they are, you can ask how many clients they've had or how often they work with people in that community. Just kind of being, just kind of gauging where they're at. Even asking about their own education, supervision. You can ask all these things. I think sometimes people are afraid to because they don't, I mean, they're talking to a professional. They don't want to be like, this is how you're supposed to do your job. But I think it's definitely okay to ask. My clients ask me, and if they don't ask me, I tell them. Though my website very clearly states how LGBTQ friendly I am. So people generally don't ask me per se, but I do end up telling them.
Great, thank you. I think it's good to empower and put that message out to the public that this is an equal relationship and you do have the right to ask those kind of questions.
Definitely.
So thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that response so much, Felicia, that, to encourage them to be their own advocate and to be able to ask and say like what they're really looking for. Because I've had that experience with some of my clients as well, where they're so hesitant in asking me a question. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you are more than welcome to ask me any question you want, like you should feel that comfortable with your therapist that you're able to ask those questions, because you know what you need and
Right.
you know what you're looking for. So why not express it from the get-go? So I love the fact that you're encouraging individuals to do so. So in your practice, what kind of services do you offer our community?
I offer individual and couples and family therapy. I actually went to school for, family, couples, marital family, couples, marital family therapy. So I have experience with all three of those, plus individual. So I offer services all within those realms. Like I said, kind of mentioned earlier, for those who are transgender and are looking for hormone replacement therapy or HRT, I do provide the assessment and the letter needed to start that. Same in regards to any sort of surgery they might want to have. I also help with that, and finding other services that they might need, including trying to figure out the legal system so people can get their names changed, which is always a fun time. And then I'm hoping to start a group as well at one point or another, but with COVID, that's kind of pushed things back, but we will see, hopefully soon.
So I think it's so important for someone to have a support system that's there throughout the whole transition. And that's what you're saying, that you're kind of there through the whole step of the way, from the letter and assessment to if you need your help changing your name or whatever. Because I'm sure it's so overwhelming going through that process that it's probably really helpful to have someone like you that can just say, like, take a breather, like I can kind of help you navigate some of these difficult moments through transition. So that's great. I know you already mentioned a few organizations earlier, but do you have any other recommendations, like if someone wanted to like read a book or listen to a podcast or any other specific things to educate or give someone support in that area?
Yeah, actually, in regards to a really good book that I recommend pretty much almost every client I have that is trying to figure out their gender identity, whether or not they want to start HRT or do surgery or what have you. I recommend a book by Dara Hoffman Fox. They wrote the book, Me and My Gender Identity. It's a very good book. I hear that they are working on another, like an updated version of it. So I'm super excited about that, see how that comes out. You can find it on their website, I think Amazon even has it. Comes in PDF form or, physical book copy. It's really great. Other than that, there are so many books out there, in all honesty, that are really good for people in the community, depending on what they want to do. I could spend hours just telling you about them all. I have a
Sure.
whole collection in my office if anybody is ever interested.
Yeah, but that's a good starting point. Would
Mhm.
be that book, and then maybe
Yeah,
reaching out to one of the organizations. Now I know you mentioned
yeah,
Bradbury Sullivan,
yeah.
and then you mentioned one in Philadelphia. Can you repeat that name because I didn't catch it before?
That was the Mazzoni Center.
Okay.
And can you talk a little bit about what does Bradbury Sullivan offer? So if someone's not familiar, what are some of the offerings that they provide as a center?
Sure. Yeah, they're a really great group. Like I said, they're in Allentown. They offer a lot of support for people in the LGBTQ plus community. They actually have a pride that's in August generally. Not
Mhm.
sure exactly what's going to happen with that this year.
Mhm.
But they have a pride event that's in Allentown generally in August. They have, if you want to talk about books, they've got books. They've got a full library. They have an art studio specifically geared toward the LGBTQ plus community and artists. They offer a number of different support groups. They've just got a lot going on. They are huge advocates for the community. They also offer legal aid, which is where a lot of my clients get sent over to who need help with their name change, because they do that. I think it's either once or twice a month on Tuesdays. They have a lawyer come in who helps with, different aspects of the legal system, which I think is fantastic.
Mhm. Great.
Yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
mhm.
wonderful. And I think you're right about the August event. I think they just had switched it to virtual, and
Yeah.
I had seen that they had posted something about encouraging the community to take pictures of you and your kids and your pets, sharing their pride,
Yeah,
and sharing it with them. So they do seem to have a lot going on, but that's
definitely.
really
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Trying to interest everyone to get involved in different ways.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And two populations I'm familiar with, and is how do you work with or suggestions for families who are also in the in their acceptance? So how do you work with families in their acceptance? And I guess another population that I'm familiar with is the senior population within this community, and what are some unique needs that the senior group within this population may have from your perspective? So I know there are two different ends of the developmental lifespan, but sometimes I think there are groups that sometimes we miss.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I think in regards to families who are trying to, in a way, learn how to be accepting, I definitely suggest therapy to them too. They might think, oh no, I can figure it out on my own and I can get there. Very well may be. However, there's going to be questions you're going to have that you're going to need somebody who knows. So that way you can even just bounce things off of them, to kind of get a better idea, a better sense of even how to like word questions, to whoever is in the community that they're trying to address. A therapist is going to help you out with that. Books, podcasts, maybe, but sometimes it's easier and better to have somebody right in front of you. Like, okay, can we just sit here for an hour and I can just ask you a whole bunch of questions? And that, therapist is going to be absolutely, let me help you so that you can be the best supporter, advocate, what have you, for this person that's in your life that you want to be there for.
Mm-hmm.
And then in regards to the senior community, I think one of the biggest things that I've run into is they, especially those who are wanting to transition and start HRT and do surgeries and stuff, is a lot of like, I wish I would have done this sooner. So I mean, even if it's not somebody who's transgender and it's somebody in somewhere else within the community, I wish I would have said something sooner so I could have lived as me longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I've seen a lot of regret. So it's a lot of working through, like, hey, at least you did it. At
Mm-hmm.
least you came to this decision that you were, not gonna worry about everybody else. You want to be you, and now we're taking steps so that you can be you. And, understanding that even at that age, if you lose friends along the way, there are plenty others out there. You can find somebody that's going to be accepting and, love you for who you are. So many people think the community is small, and it's not. It's a lot bigger, I think, than people realize.
Yes. Yeah. What a wonderful observation about that. Thank you for sharing that. And that kind of ties into this bigger question. When you've mentioned one of the public policy changes for the transgender population, with doctors allowed now to be discriminatory in practice. At the same time, we had the Supreme Court just recently make a decision that protects the LGBT community in the workplace. And that was always been a big issue in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania was one of those states that did population. So could you talk to me? And I think you lost me. So I'll just ask you again, could you share with us from your perspective how these public policy changes then affect this community and have impact, and sometimes mental health or just in general have an impact when these changes take place like this?
Definitely. Yeah. These policies are huge for the community, both, just in general and then mental health wise as well. When it came out in regards to the doctors being able to, discriminate and everything. And there was a lot of concern from not only my clients that I was seeing, but also, the community in general. Like, I mean, just think about it. Like, you have an issue, like you break your leg, you call for somebody to come help you, and they said, no, I'm not going to help you because of who you are. Like, that's just wrong. Like, that's, it's we're humans, we should love and accept each other for who we are. It would be like, just devastating, I think, for anybody to go through something like that. So for that becoming a thing, it's definitely caused a lot of concern. I know there's a lot of action going against this decision and hoping to get it revoked or changed so that it's not in place anymore, so the discrimination can't happen. But you're right, on the positive end, then we have this other bill that gets put into place that you can no longer discriminate because of your sexual orientation, gender, just for being in the LGBTQ community. So that was huge win for the community and everybody, because kind of the same sort of thing. You go into work, you are trying to be who you are, and then your boss is like, well, I don't like who you are, and now you're fired. Just because of who you are. And that's just not fair. So thankfully now that's not, you can't do that anymore. So if we could have more things passed like that, protecting the LGBTQ plus community, that would be amazing, and I think would be a huge relief for in general, and especially for their mental health, because you can imagine, again, just calling for help. Is this person actually going to help me, or are they going to be somebody who decides not to because of who I am? That's a huge worry and concern for people, and it definitely weighs on them.
Right. Thank you. And as professionals, how can we play a bigger role in understanding that and taking action?
I think just, first off, being there for, if you're a therapist, whether private practice, agency, school, what have you, just be there, be reassuring, listen to what your client or your student is saying. Even, doctors who are accepting, like, make sure it is known that you don't care what, a person, like, where they fall in the LGBTQ plus community, if you even are part of it. Just like, I'm going to treat you no matter what. We're good. You don't have to worry about me doing anything suspicious because I don't like you. And advocating, go to the Pride event, show that you're interested in learning and want to be there, and show your support. Talk to your colleagues, educate, provide supervision, you know, when these sorts of, you know, more negative bills are coming through, you know, make sure you're vocal about, you know, your disapproval of them. Or if it's a more positive bill, you know, yes, let's do this. Let me sign every petition there is to make sure that this is happening. You know, even just spreading the word on like your social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, just put it out there. Hey, this is happening. You know, this is great. Please support it. Or this is terrible. Please help us like make sure that this doesn't happen. There's a lot of different avenues you can go to make sure that you're advocating for this community.
Thank you.
So the one word that comes to mind as I'm listening to you talk, Felicia, is passion. You sound very passionate about what you're doing and what you provide for the individuals that you work for. Like you're very much going to be there to have their back, if that's the right way to phrase it, you know, that like I'm truly here to support you like every step of the way, and you're going to fight for something that's not right, and that's just so needed. So thank you for being you. And so if individuals in our community would like to reach out to you to set up an appointment or consultation or just learn what you're all about and how you support our community, what's your contact information?
I think the best place to go is probably my website, which has everything right in there. It has my phone number, email address. It even has a way that you can set up your own appointment without even talking to me. So if you want to check it out, my website is F as in Frank, J Moore, MOORE, counseling.com. And like I said, my phone number is in there, my email address is on there, and you can set up an appointment right on. It's all in one space.
Okay. So that's the place to go.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Okay.
It's the fastest way you're going to find me.
Okay, great. Are there any last thoughts or anything that you would like to share with someone who's listening or watching before we end the episode for today?
Sure. First, I just want to thank the two of you for having me. It's been wonderful and great, and I'm so happy I could be a part of it. In regards to anybody who's watching, just, know that you can be your authentic self. There are people out there that will love and accept you, and if you need help, there are a lot of us out there that can help you in many different ways. And again, if you connected with me through this, head over to my website, give me a call, email me, set up an appointment. I'm more than willing to help in any way I can. Whether you're in the community, you want to learn more about the community, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And Mark, thank you for being with us too, of course.
Well, thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Felicia. And thank you for all that you do here in the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you to our listeners. We'll see you soon.